Now, from 16 WATT, Men's Health of Mississippi.
June is Men's Health Month. The purpose of this program is to bring awareness. Did you know women go to the doctor only half as often as men do, but they live an average of 5 years longer? But there are things you can do to improve. Stop smoking, limit your drinking, eat healthy, and exercise. Men are encouraged to set health goals and have a plan to achieve those goals, and get regular checkups, and maybe most importantly, be honest with yourself and open-minded about your health. I'm Joe Cook. Today's topic, men's health, is something that's not talked about enough. Men are often not as open to discussing their health issues. In fact, I've heard some men say you don't go to a doctor unless you've got a broken arm. But here's some information that should motivate you to start changing your outlook. And it may surprise you, but the leading causes of death for men here in Mississippi are diabetes, stroke, lung disease, cancer, and heart disease. So let's start with heart disease. It's actually number 1 on the list. Strokes are number 5, but one can lead to the other. So it's time to learn about the top predator in the state so you can bypass it. Our own Troy Johnson has your survival kit.
Every day, as men go about their day, many are at risk. Just ask Ryan McBride.
It's a weekend in December, so it was the day that my youngest daughter had her recital play of Nutcracker.
Ryan says on that very normal day, he was getting his daughters ready, fixing breakfast. He felt tired, but that was just one of several signs something was wrong.
Hand started like moving by itself. And so I was like, what's going on? Trying to like hide it, thinking nothing of it, you know.
He's on prescribed meds for high blood pressure.
I remember going to the medicine cabinet to get my medicine. I was going to go ahead and take my dose for the day. And I did not have the strength to open the bottle.
What he didn't see but later learned was that he was experiencing facial drooping. It happens during a stroke when blood flow to different parts of the brain can stop. His youngest daughter was in the kitchen with him. Ryan says she was immediately alarmed.
And she said, Dad, what's going on with you? She said, something's not right. And she's a daddy's girl, and she was like, you know, we got to do something, you know. And I didn't say anything at that time, but I did not realize that I couldn't talk.
But his ordeal was far from over.
And that it was at that time that I remember like falling, like the strength was leaving my body, like one limb after another. And I remember I must have blacked out because I don't remember me hitting the floor.
Mississippi has one of the highest stroke mortality rates in the nation, claiming about 1,500 lives here each year. According to the Mississippi State Department of Health, smoking, obesity, and physical inactivity are key factors for Mississippians who risk stroke and other heart diseases.
Men in the South are supposed to be stoic, tough guys, and it's hard to be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm having these symptoms.
Dr. Sean Sanders is an interventional cardiologist at Baptist Hospital.
That just kind of play through it, and ultimately that just does not work well.
For men, their behaviors about health keep those stakes high. The danger of playing through the pain or toughing it out doesn't mesh well with a less talked about pressure point in men's lives, stress and anxiety.
It releases stress hormones in the body that can make coronary plaque unstable. It can raise blood pressure, which is obviously a huge risk factor for developing heart disease.
Mental health issues like PTSD can also put men at risk for heart disease.
Stress, anxiety, depression, all these things can release hormones and chemicals in the body that are bad for blood pressure, directly bad for your cardiovascular system. And acknowledging that and seeing someone talking about it is not a sign of weakness. In fact, I think it's a sign of strength.
Ryan embodies that kind of strength, starting with 5 months in recovery after his stroke, fighting to get back to himself.
Also, the paralysis, most of it subsided. So I had to do strength training, you know, different things to like get my grip back and like walking, exercising, weight training. My speech began to come back. And there was still a lot of work that I had to do with speech.
His recovery continues, and he's got 3 special reasons to keep going.
You know, we owe it to ourselves and to our families to take care of ourselves.
In addition to regular visits to the doctor, health screenings, and regular exercise, diet is also a game changer. Ryan, whose story you just heard, has switched to a Mediterranean diet and includes fish, lean proteins, fruits, veggies, and whole grains. Eating this way improves blood pressure and lowers cholesterol and reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes. There's more to the story here. I want to drive home the point, so I have a piece of trivia for you. Thomas Jefferson, Dwight Eisenhower, Franklin Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford. What do all of these men have in common? Well, yes, they're all U.S. presidents, but remember, this is a health special. What you probably didn't know is that each of these men experienced a stroke. Proof that it can happen to anyone at any time. And according to the Centers for Disease Control, stroke death rate for African-American men were 2 to 3 times higher than other races. Black men are most in danger because of higher risk factors like diabetes and high blood pressure. So to survive, you need immediate attention. Next on the list is a scary one to talk about, cancer. It is the second leading cause of death in the U.S. and Mississippi. USAFacts.org reported last year that Mississippi had the highest mortality rate, about 20% above the national average. And men are 50% more likely to die from cancer than women. But the sooner you can tackle it, the better off you'll be.
I would let everybody know that they definitely need to get tested regularly.
That's the urgent advice of Bobby Zimmerman. The 58-year-old Brookhaven native just finished his treatment for prostate cancer. It runs in his family. He says this disease is nothing to play around with.
It can hit you hard and fast and you don't know it, so the best thing to do is see your doctor regularly and look for these things. Be prepared, because you know, when your time is up, it's up.
Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the country, and it's also number 2 in the state of Mississippi. The health director of Men's Health magazine, Marty Munson, gives us the large scope of the disease.
So the top 3 cancers right now in the U.S. that are likely to be diagnosed are prostate, lung, and colon. Prostate cancer, 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lives. And that sounds like a really, really big number. And it is a really, really big number. But prostate cancer, doctors like to say that it's a cancer that you are likely to die with, not die of, because it's quite treatable if you catch it early.
That's the key with beating cancer. The earlier, the better. Dr. Daniel Etney, the state health officer of Mississippi, says that applies to colon cancer as well.
All men 45 and older need to get their colonoscopies done. It doesn't matter what your family history is. If you're 45 or older, get your colonoscopy done. It can save your life. Those are the top 3, colonoscopy, prostate screening with PSAs, and low-dose CT for lung cancer would catch most of the men who are dying of cancer in Mississippi.
From 10 years ago to now, the mortality rate hasn't changed for Mississippi men despite advances in technology and treatment. Getting ahead of cancer is paramount.
We need prevention. We need to educate men on how to live. Don't smoke. Don't be sedentary. Restrict the fats in your diet. Keep your weight down. Go to the doctor. Do your screenings. If you don't have insurance and you don't have access to screening, come to the health department. We have programs to help you there. But we need to improve access to care for all Mississippians. I'm confident we'll do that. When we do that, you'll see these mortality rates come down.
And don't wait until you don't feel right either. After just 6 weeks of treatment, Bobby says getting screened early and often will enable you to be victorious.
And they found a little spot in there when they did the scan. They found a small spot in there, and they said, we're going to go in there and radiate that and get rid of it, and it's going to be over with for you. I'm tickled to death to get back to a normal life.
Yeah, thanks, it's been a pleasure.
I just about don't want to go home. And it's been a pleasure being here, and I've made friends, and you putting it off 6 months might be the difference between, a tragedy in the family or a hardship amongst the family trying to take care of you, or you being able to get up and get out and do things on your own again.
And you're not alone in this fight. I suffer from ulcerative colitis, or UC, so I'm at more of a risk of getting colon cancer. And I was diagnosed when I was just 20. I'm already a colonoscopy pro at 37 years old, and it's easy and simple. If I can do it, you can do it, no matter your age. So get screened and get tested. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready to beat cancer. It's an addiction, it's a struggle, it's hardship. Many feel it's a death sentence or worse.
I was feeling a pain, and I have been feeling it for a while.
Many take breathing for granted, but there are so many illnesses that target the lungs. After the break, a man tells his story and his challenges, and doctors talk about how you can avoid a similar situation. Okay, stating the obvious here, the lungs are vital organs, bringing air in and out of the body. Take a deep breath. Feels good, right? But there are a number of diseases that can interrupt this process, causing death. You're probably familiar with COVID, asthma, influenza, pneumonia. But what about blood clots, cancer, and cystic fibrosis? When you can't breathe, it can affect other parts of your body. 16 WAPT's Bethal Miles explains.
Veteran Ron Summers has been smoking for 55 years. He will light a cigarette like it's second nature.
I mean, it is what it is. My dad, he died of esophagus cancer.
He says it casually, like he's talking about the weather. But this year, Ron had half his left lung removed. Cancer, stage 2. Doctors at the Jackson VA hospital called it just in time.
You know, it could be anything, but at least they caught it early.
Dr. Galen Omnich, a surgeon at Mississippi Baptist, says Ron's story isn't unique, but it is urgent.
So lung cancer, surprisingly to most people, is the #1 killer for men in terms of cancers.
Ron's list of exposures is long. On top of smoking for those 5 decades, as a kid he bagged DDT at his dad's chemical plant. He touched asbestos. He sprayed Roundup. But even with all of that,
everybody says it's smoking, but people get lung cancer who's never smoked in their life.
Doctors never gave him a clear reason for his diagnosis, just a warning, a reminder, and a second chance.
I knew something was wrong. I just wasn't sure what.
He went to several VA hospitals, but the cancer didn't immediately show up on a scan.
Well, I've been to a couple of other VAs, and they kept checking my heart.
By the time they realized it hit his lung, Ron says it was close.
It was getting close to the lymph node. Once it gets to the lymph node, it can go quick.
Ron says after a diagnosis like that, there's only one thing that changes. Something that makes you look at things a little differently.
Made me a little more aware of time. That, you know, sometimes you just feel like you're going to live forever, and other times you find out, hey, you might not be here tomorrow.
With all the unknowns surrounding cancer cases, Dr. Umnich is clear on one.
Smoking is where the vast majority, 90% of lung cancers come from, is smoking.
And now a new threat, alternative cigarettes.
You get vapes and Juuls and these other kind of vape products, and we don't exactly know what's in them. Should not be vaping either. It's certainly not good for you. And there's some indication that it could be very bad for you and even cancer causing as well.
Ron shrugs at all that.
I wasn't that surprised, considering my age and smoking for 55 years.
In Mississippi, lung cancer doesn't come with a single face, but today, it sure looks like a man who's seen it all and isn't afraid to say what he's thinking. Bethal Miles, 16 WAPT.
Lung cancer is serious business. It is the leading cause of cancer death in the U.S., and it causes far more deaths than colon, prostate, and breast cancer combined. Remember, take your health seriously so you can breathe easy. And the body gives you warning after warning after warning, so it helps to know the symptoms of diabetes. We explain. And an explanation on why it's so important to manage those blood sugar levels. Your body produces a hormone called insulin. That insulin is charged with turning the sugar in the body into energy, but when it's unable to do that properly, you get diabetes. And if left unchecked, it can lead to heart attacks, strokes, kidney problems, nerve damage, and that's just a short list. 16 WAPT's Carlos Garcia talks to us about the best ways for you to treat this situation.
It's deadly serious. if you don't take care of it, it will take care of you. So
it affects 38 million people in the United States and over 300,000 in Mississippi. If untreated, this disease can lead to kidney and other organ failure, blindness, and even death. Yet, it isn't talked about like the others.
Diabetes and high blood sugars can affect your small blood vessels, which impact your eyes, your kidneys, and your nerves.
Diabetes is rapidly growing in Mississippi. Last year alone, the American Diabetes Association reported that over 13,000 adults in the state were diagnosed, and 15% of the state's population lives with this autoimmune disease. For men like Joe Solowaychik, they make up a large percentage of that number.
So this year will be 63 years for me about living with type 1 diabetes. I got it when I was about 7 years old. So anyone out there in television land can figure out how old I am. I got it when I was 7 and a half, and I've been managing and living with it since then.
The Mississippi State Department of Health reported that 1 in 7 residents live with diabetes, putting the state in the top 5 nationally for diabetes rates. And it doesn't stop there. In the state, black men lead in the category of diabetic prevalence at nearly 17%.
We happen to lead the entire nation in terms of both obesity and diabetes. And that's because we carry extra weight. And the reason is that we are the fattest state in the country.
So how do you know if you have diabetes, which type you have, and how to treat it? Type 1 is developed at a young age and is often genetic. Symptoms like frequent urination and rapid weight loss are among the most common. Type 2 is what many older men deal with. It's a result of poor lifestyle and diet choices and just simply being at an older age. And it doesn't just go away after a certain age. In fact, it gets worse the longer you put it off.
It's going to be heart disease. There's going to be a potential for increased risk of stroke. I lost a dad to stroke, and he was a man's man. He just didn't do what he's supposed to do.
For type 1 diabetes, it's not curable, but it is treatable. By checking your blood glucose levels and receiving insulin, you're on your way to managing and taking control of diabetes. For type 2, it starts with seeing a doctor, then making the necessary diet and lifestyle changes.
Is that the patient who knows the best does the best.
So why should you care? Why should you be focusing on your health and making sure that you're living a longer and healthier life?
Take care of your children by taking care of yourself. If you don't do that, you're doing a disservice to your own children.
But any diabetes, 1 or 2, that not taken care of, what can end up happening is that you can lose sensation in your feet, step on a nail, not even know that you stepped on the nail, not feel it, and then 3 weeks later, infection sets in, and by the time you get to the hospital, you have to have your leg amputated, or your foot amputated, or a toe amputated. There's no need for that. That's about neglect and about not engaging.
Carlos Garcia, 16, WAPT.
There's another issue we like to address. It's not in the top 5 of deadliest health issues we've been talking about, but it can be a contributor, and that's belly fat. Okay, here's weight gain made simple. If you take in more calories than you burn, that leads to gaining weight. 3,500 calories equals 1 pound. A few extra pounds is fine, but too many can carry dangerous health risks.
Even though it's called belly fat, it builds up around your heart, lungs, liver, and other internal organs.
It's fat around the organs themselves, so we call that visceral fat.
Now, some fat is good, but too much is dangerous. It raises the risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, certain cancers, and other illnesses.
For example, fatty liver disease, which is really common nowadays, it's essentially visceral fat putting itself inside the liver, and that causes the liver to malfunction over time.
And then there is alcohol. Drinking could also contribute to the problem.
Alcohol actually blocks fat metabolism. So if you're a guy who wants to lose weight and you drink a lot of alcohol, that's usually one of the first things I tell people to get rid of.
If you do drink, it should be in moderation. For men, that's 2 or less drinks a day. But there's more to it to get rid of belly fat.
So the only way to really get rid of fat around the organs is to lose fat all over the body. And this essentially comes down to the very basics, right? How much we eat, what types of food we eat, how much exercise, which equals how much muscle mass we have. All these things play a role.
Keep this in mind. You didn't gain the weight in a day, so don't expect to lose it all in a day. It takes time, patience, and effort.
When it comes to dieting, always check with your doctor, ask them questions, make sure you're not doing your body more harm than good. Our next topic is probably one of the most difficult conversations to ever have. So much so, the journey to recovery is never ending.
Person in long-term recovery. I've been clean and sober over 28 years. My sobriety date is March 1, and I didn't get here the easy way.
Addiction comes in many forms and does not discriminate. An athlete trying to recover could easily be in recovery. What one has to go through to fight addiction. Drug addiction is defined as a state where someone is reliant upon a substance for functionality despite adverse consequences. You can't stop taking drugs even though you know it's hurting you. In a state where sports take center stage and injury can be devastating. And treatment of injuries with drugs can often lead to dependency. Our own Rob J takes a hard look at our state of addiction.
My story is one of recovery and redemption and resilience. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I've been clean and sober over 28 years. My sobriety date is March 1, and I didn't get here the easy way.
As the Chief Development Officer for Capstone Wellness, Ruth Ann Rigby is quite candid in sharing her story on the disease of addiction.
I can't go talk to a football player on the football field about what they're going through when they're doing plays and things like that because I'm not a football player, but I am an alcoholic and a drug addict. So I can talk about my experience, strength, and hope, and I share my story of hope because if I can get clean and sober, anyone can get clean and sober.
With June being Men's Health Month, Ruth Ann says the disease of addiction has no preference.
The disease of addiction does not discriminate. It will attack anybody it chooses. And so, you know, women especially, and men. And, you know, right now we're in an epidemic because it's also affecting our youth.
Here at the Center for Hope and Healing at Broadmoor, Ruth Ann Bigby is dedicated in assisting families and individuals in overcoming challenges related to the disease of addiction. Now, according to Ruth Ann, the most common disease of addiction is drug abuse. And with Mississippi having so many top-tier athletes, an injury can more times than not lead to an addiction of painkillers and other transitional drugs.
Oh, athletes are very vulnerable to the disease of addiction and addiction because, you know, just think of an athlete. What happens to that? Let's take a football player. What happens to that athlete every single day? Boom, 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 boom. And so you've heard a lot about the CTE that they have experienced within their brain and onset early dementia for athletes. But, you know, I'm friends with a lot of athletes that are in recovery, and they will tell me that it starts when they've had a head injury or they've had to have their knee operated on or any type of accident that they've had playing on the field.
Having been clean and sober for nearly 30 years, Ruth Ann says a strong support staff is definitely needed to those on the road to recovery.
People know that they're not alone, you know. That's the important thing. And you know that there are great resources here in our community, such as the Center for Hope and Healing at Broadmoor, where we have over 12 therapists and we have a sliding scale. So there's no reason why we can't get people the help that they need. And even at Capstone, where we treat adolescent young adult men but we also treat sex addiction, gaming, and porn in adolescents and young adults.
At the Center for Hope and Healing in Broadmoor, I'm Rob J, 16 WAPT Sports.
Some of the athletes you may know who have struggled with addiction are baseball legend Darryl Strawberry, NFL Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor, and Hall of Famer Brett Favre. The common theme tonight: a healthy diet, exercise, and regular checkups lead to a long and healthy life. Be proactive, not reactive. Get it done now so you don't need to later, because it could be too late. But there's a lot more to unwrap here. We didn't talk about our mental health or social connections, but we did go more in depth on our website, WAPT.com. Be sure to check that out. We want to thank our partners at Men's Health Magazine for their help with this project. Our purpose here is to bring awareness and to encourage you to set healthy goals and a plan to achieve those goals. You only live once. Let's make the most of it. Thanks for watching.